What's up guys, today I'm going to show you how to composite like 9headache. In this tutorial we're going to cover how to do the flying objects effect, how to make the sharp aura glow. Then I'm also going to show you how to composite fire in your clips. I'm going to show you how to make the glowing eyes effect. And then lastly I'm going to show you how to make color grading like 9headache. So let's get right into the video. Alright, so we got our clip and then the layer above it is just a mask out of the character. So you just want to start off with this, and then the first thing we're going to do is make the flying objects effect. So the first thing you want to do is select the bottom layer and then Ctrl+Y to create a solid layer. Alright, then you want to apply an effect called element 3D, and you'll see the solid layer will just disappear, but it just hides it. And then you want to go to scene setup, and then here you can click on import, and then you just want to go to a folder where you have a 3D object. So it will usually be like .obj or .fbx files. And you can just find them online. So for example, if you want like a 3D object of a star, you just search on Google star obj download and you'll just find something. So we're going to use this obj, and then you can just import it. And then as you can see, we got a star in our scene. So the next thing is to just normalize the size. And then you can do like all sorts of stuff with this, but that's for a different tutorial. For now, we just need an object and then we can press OK. Alright, so now if you hide the layer, you can see we got a star. The next thing to do is go to group 1, then particle replicator, and then make this a higher value, for example 8. Then you want to set the replicator shape to sphere, and then you can go down to scatter, so below the replicator effects, and then you can just scatter it a little, and this will just move them around. And then you can also go to shapes, and then you can also go to shape scale, and this is basically like the overall scale of your sphere. So maybe 2 will look pretty good. Alright, and then here, the seed, you can also change this one. So this will just move them around in a different way. And then here down in rotation, you can just rotate your sphere as well if you want that. So maybe something like this. Alright, then we can close our particle replicator. Then we can go down to particle look. And here you just want to change the size really quick because they're a little too big, so maybe 6. And then you can also randomize it, so maybe let's set it to 40%. Then you can go down to particle rotation. And then here you can basically go to rotation random and just randomly move them around like this. And then here we actually want to make a keyframe already. So let's go to the beginning, make a keyframe. Let's go to the end and then just rotate them a little like this. And then here, of course, the seed, you can also change it if you want. And it will just make it look a little bit different. All right, so that's it for the particle look. I will quickly go back to the particle replicator because here we basically want to animate the scatter too. So let's go to scatter and then go to the end and then just scatter it a little bit more. Alright, and then I actually do want to change the seed. Alright, so something like that. They're evenly spread out on our scene, which will always look better. Alright, so now we can close group 1 and now we can go to the render settings. So here we can go to physical environment, and then on override layer you want to select your original clip. Alright, so now it will also take the colors of that clip, which instantly makes it fit way better. Alright, then we can close this and then go to lighting. And here we can just choose a preset, for example warm or something like sun, something that just fits your scene. And then here on additional lighting, you can make it a little bit brighter. And you can also rotate like the lighting source. So as you can see, if you change this, our light source is more at the front now. But since the light is actually in the back in our clip, we just want to keep it like this because then it will look way more realistic. So something like this. Alright, so now it actually looks like the light in our clip is affecting the stars which we just added. Alright, so now we can close this, and that's basically all for our stars. Some small things that you might add is like a deep glow, and then make sure to select this setting here. And then this will make it fit just a little bit more, so it really integrates within your scene. Alright, now the next effect is a sharp aura glow. So in my previous tutorial, we did like an aura glow, which was kind of more soft. And now I'm going to show you a little bit of a different technique. So to achieve this effect, you just want to copy the original clip. And let's put it above everything. And then also copy the masked out layer. And then also put it above this. So let's just give it a color really quick. So these are our 2 new layers. Alright, for the top one, you want to make it black. So just use the fill effect and then make it black. And then here you can just move it around. So something like this. So you get these brighter parts around the black parts. Then you want to pre-compose it. So select them both and then pre-compose. And then you just want to copy the masked out layer one more time. Put it above everything. And then just make a track matte, so link them with this here, and then drag it on the top layer. Alright, and then you'll see it will be invisible, so you need to re-enable the visibility here with the I button. And then you want to set it to screen or add, So now you'll see these brighter parts around the edges. You can even set it to add, and it will be a little more extreme. But we'll just set it to screen, and then we can go into our pre-composition. And then here we can make it brighter. So let's go to the bottom layer and add a lumetri color, and then just change the exposure. All right, so that's better. All right, so this is how you create that sharp aura glow, which he usually does. All right, now the next thing is to composite some fire in the background, which he also does a lot. So we're just going to grab a fire overlay. Let's just position it, and then we can just set it to screen. All right, so then you just want to put it at the back. So let's bring it below the masked out layer, like this. All right, and then because the background is kind of blurry, we also want to do the same with our fire. So let's add a camera lens blur, and maybe set it to something like 10. So it still has some depth. So as you can see, the objects in the front are really sharp. Then the fire is a little bit blurred, and then the background is completely blurred, which will just add a lot to the depth of our scene. We can even do the same with our stars actually. So let's add a camera lens blur, or maybe even a bokeh blur, if you have that. But I don't want it to be too extreme on our stars, so maybe like 8. So it just has a little bit more of that depth. All right, and then what you could also do is add VC color vibrance to give it a little bit of a different color. For now, I don't want to do too much with it, so I just want to keep it the same color, honestly. But it's just very important, especially for 9headache style, to keep like one color. So for this tutorial, I kind of want to keep the color red as the primary color. So that's honestly it for the fire. You just need a good overlay, and then later on, we're going to make it even better with our color grading. But for now, we're going to start with the glowing eyes. So what you want to do is go to your masked out layer, then Ctrl D on it. Then you want to set it to normal. And then here, just because it's easier, you just want to remove the roto brush and then just do it all over again. So double click, make sure you're in full, because that will help a lot when you're masking. And then you want to mask out just the eyes. So make sure it's just the blue in this example. All right, then you can just press space. And usually if your clip doesn't have too much movement, it will just perfectly automatically mask it. And then it's very important to click the freeze button, because this will make sure that it won't have to reload every time you just want to view it. So I see a lot of editors that just skip over this, but it's such a useful tool, because when you're editing, it will always have to recalculate what you masked out. If you just press the freeze button, it will just lock in and just not have to calculate it again. All right, so then we can go back to our main. And then there's like two things that 9headache does. He either makes the eyes white and then adds like this kind of like projecting effect, or he makes the eyes just glow. For this tutorial, I'm just going to make your eyes glow normally, because I don't think making the eyes fully white will look good, especially on this clip. So the first thing we're going to do is add a lumetri color, and then here we're just going to increase the saturation, and then also increase the highlights like this, and then you want to decrease the shadows. So you want like the brighter parts in our eyes to pop out more. Then you want to add something called deep glow. Something called deep glow. You probably already know this effect. And then you just want to enable this option here. And then you just want to copy these settings. So the exposure, just make sure it's like really high in exposure. The radius, just like a normal value. And make sure this smooth blending is also enabled. And then also make sure you enable this effect here, the smooth blending, just so it's not as harsh. Alright, so after you've done this, we can move on to the color grading. So you want to hold Ctrl Alt plus Y to create an adjustment layer. And this is going to be our color grading layer. So let's call it CG. And then we're honestly going straight to the lux effect. If you're using multiple clips, then I'd recommend using a lumetri color to make them all kind of like neutral. So make sure there are no clips that are overly exposed or have too much contrast in them. So they're all kind of neutral. Also clips that are too saturated, you want to desaturate them a little. But for this clip, we only got one, so we're going straight to lux and then just click edit. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is add a LUT. I got a LUT pack, you can check it out on my shop. There's like a link in the description down below. So we're going to use one of those. Alright, so this one looks really good actually. I like the contrast on this one, but let's just use this one and then add the contrast ourselves. So for shadows, we can make it even more red like this. And then we're just going to keep the aura to neutral, because as you'll see, if you change them around, it will just create something very muddy. Yeah, I'm just going to keep it neutral. Then the temperature, we're going to make it a little colder. And then we're going to add some contrast here. So move this down and then move this one a little bit more up. Alright, then here we can change around the colors. So orange, obviously we want to keep it. We can make it more red or more yellow. But in this case, I just want to keep it nicely in between. And then the red, I actually want to make it a little more pink and then just boost it a little like this. Right, then we'll remove the pink. We'll keep the purple because there's a little bit of that in the eyes. And then we'll just move the blue a little bit more to the light blue. And then the green, we can just remove it too because there's not any of it. And then a very important thing is to desaturate everything in the complete blacks. And then just desaturate it a little bit in the highlights. So if you do it too much, you'll notice it in the hair, for example. So you just want to do it a little bit like this. Alright, then the next thing is to add optical diffusion. And then for this, you probably already know my method. I just boost up everything and then just make the highlights only like 95 and then just lower it again so you can just see what you're working with. Then as you can see, you can create a little bit of a glow here. Alright, then you want to add some halation, which will just give like this red glow around the edges. So again, just boost everything up and then just decrease it until you're happy with the result. Alright, and then a final thing, which I like to do sometimes, is to add a film negative before everything. And then this can just change around the entire scene completely. So for example, this is a little bit too extreme, but if you select a different camera type, it will just give like a completely different vibe sometimes. So you can experiment with this. Some camera types will look like really bad, for example this one, but you'll notice it immediately. So for example, this one gives like a really nostalgic vibe. So maybe this one, as you can see, if you disable it, this is without it. And honestly, if we enable it, it looks like a little bit better in my opinion. Maybe we want to just remove some of the contrast like this. Alright, and now we can just press enter. Alright, so now as you can see, we've made a beautiful composition with primarily the color orange, which leans a lot towards the style. So yeah, this is how you composite like 9headache. Hopefully you've learned a lot, and if you did, make sure to subscribe. And if you want me to help you even more with After Effects, then make sure to click on the first link in the description down below. Alright, bye bye.